Hello, I'm Michael with Mobile Elite Auto, and we're here with Josh from Captain Auto. Where's Captain Auto? Is it considered East Fort Worth?
It's East Fort Worth. It
Okay.
is Fort Worth.
East Fort Worth, but not East Fort Worth, if you understand that.
Yeah. It's like right on the edge of Arlington.
Right, right. The first question I have for you is who is Josh Blakey? If you can share a little bit about yourself.
Well, I was born in Fort Worth. As a mechanic, I wasn't really a typical gearhead as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Had some interest in it. My first vehicle, and then I had a dirt bike as a kid, but it wasn't like something I was born into.
Mm-hmm.
My dad, he had a delivery company. We did random things a little bit with cars, but I basically, it was the best idea I had as a young 20-year-old of how I can make a living, and
Mm-hmm.
I went to trade school, and then got the job, in the industry, and then here we are,
Mm-hmm.
and it's worked out so far.
So, what was your first job as an auto mechanic where you said, "Okay, I'm going to do this for a living"? What was your first job?
The first job, I worked at a Walmart lube center,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I worked too hard there. That's probably the hardest I worked, because in the business,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't real convinced of it then. I did roadside service on 18-wheelers and stuff
Mm-hmm.
when I was younger, when I was like 18,
Mm-hmm.
and putting on tires and stuff
On the side of the road.
on the side of the
Oh,
road.
man.
Yeah. I was telling my son about it. I was like, you could. The big tires are pretty easy to change,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
and then, but it was. And then, but basically, what changed my projection is getting the job at the dealership,
Gotcha.
and that's what I'd recommend, for anybody who wants to do this for a living. Go right to the source of the information,
Mhm.
and then if you do good, they'll train you. They'll send you to their new model training and stuff, and that's getting right on the cutting edge of the technology and stuff, because that was probably it. I learned
Gotcha.
a whole lot there.
Got you. I would say my first of all, my dad's had a automotive repair shop back west longer than I've been alive, probably 40+ years. And I've always told him all through high school that I wasn't going to be a mechanic. And the only time I worked on cars, it was if something was wrong with my car. And like any dad, he'd show me once, and then it's up to you to figure it out. But I told him I would not be a mechanic. I didn't like getting dirty. I didn't like dirt in my nails. I didn't like any of that. So, as growing up, the only time I would come to his shop would be to take one of his cars to go drive all day and run all the gas out and bring it back. So I never had plans on being an automotive technician. And after high school, college wasn't my thing, so I went to the military for a little bit, which I joined the military to be aircraft mechanic there, which kind of I guess set me up for when I got out of the military. First, my first probably professional job. I did go to a tech school, but my first professional job was at a mom and pop store. And it's a company called Joe Bob, which they're no longer in business anymore. And I guess they would be, I don't know if they'd be Central Fort Worth. It was kind of off of Vickery, real close to downtown. And that kind of exposed me to mom and pop small shops where, the guy who owned it, and, he had, I don't know if it was his relative, but it was probably four of us, and we pushed a lot of work for the area we were in. And I realized quickly that, hey, this wasn't for me. I wanted more experience, which led me to the dealership that we were at, and just getting that exposure to so many repairs. And, you can start off as a lube tech and get exposed to way more than you would do, I think it would at an independent, because you just have a more flow, a better flow of cars, different things going on. You have, like you said, if they believe it's somebody, you're somebody that's going to stick around, then they'll invest in you and send you to their classes, which you learn further in depth, diagnosing, which is a big thing that I come across these days. When we're hiring or looking for people, is people don't, technicians don't know how to read wiring diagrams. They don't know how to go deeper than just a code scan, which is a problem in today because everything is electrical. They're adding more computers, they're adding more wires, and if you don't understand the basics, then you're just going to be lost, or you're just going to be a parts changer and throw parts on, which customers don't like that because it hits their pocketbook. One example of that is probably just this week, a lady had a mobile mechanic come out to her house, and she had a car that wouldn't start. So she explained this guy put a starter on it, he put a battery on it, and told her he would be back because he had to look at it some more to see what was going on. So we go out there, and the first thing I notice is the car showing us in reverse. So probably within 5 minutes we realized that this car is not, and like me and you both know, car won't start if it's showing this in reverse. So the guy was like, did the scanner tell you that? I was like, no, I just got in the car and sat down, and it's like, this isn't right. So, we forced it into the park. Car started right up, and the customer, I don't know how much money she had paid him, but just the basics, learning the basics and not just being a parts exchanger. Car won't start, let me throw a starter on it, that type of deal. And I feel like I'm rambling on, but it's things like that if you don't get the basis, the base knowledge of car repair, then you could cost the customer a lot of money, and basically the customer will lose faith in you because you put this on, and somebody comes over behind you 5 minutes and sees the problem. So let's see what our next question is. As a mechanic, what advice would you give your son or your daughter before they get their first car?
Couple things, first, like the curb appeal of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And when you walk up to it, you just see how it looks.
Mm-hmm.
One thing big with me, I used to buy a lot of busted up cars and
Mm-hmm.
fix them up and sell them, is fender liners.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The inside of the wheel well, if it's missing or ripped,
Mm-hmm.
this car has been through the blender a little bit.
Right,
If
right.
you look and all those little trim pieces are still there,
Mm-hmm.
okay, there's good chance. I mean, it's not always true. Sometimes you get a real bad car in a pretty package, and
Right,
the opposite's
right.
true. I've had really good cars that look like garbage,
Mm-hmm.
and they're some of the best cars. So it's not all, but it's always a good test. What's the curb appeal of the car?
Mm-hmm.
First thing you do, check the oil before you even get in the car. Pop the hood, check the oil. If the dipstick's stained,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
if the oil is dark or the oil is too clean, like they just put oil in it before you got there, bring a code reader, see if anything's in it, or not readiness. You can Google how to check what that is. But if they just cleared the codes before you showed up, and then start it up, let it run, put the air conditioner on, just let it sit there and run. Because if the car doesn't run right, that person's going to start getting nervous.
Mm-hmm.
When you just got this car running and you're walking around talking, just giving the car a chance to mess up.
Right, right.
And then go drive it. Get on the highway, stop on the highway. Don't stop on the highway, but slow down at high speed, see how it stops.
Right.
And then go take some turns, and then just make sure the AC works, the heat works, because those are expensive repairs. Check the tires, because automatically, if you're going to have to buy tires, the price of the car needs to go down.
Oh, yeah.
And that's it, yeah.
And to kind of speak to that, he's speaking from a father that knows cars. If you have a father or somebody that's helping you buy a car, pay for a pre-purchase inspection, because everything he's saying is more technical on the mechanic side. Something that we can do fairly quickly. But the main thing is if you're not tech savvy, pay for the pre-purchase inspection. I don't care if it's $200. If you're making an investment in a car and you're spending, let's say for a decent used car, $8 to $10 grand, $200 is nothing to save you from making a bad investment. We had a customer that had a Jeep, and it looked, like you said, it looked perfect. It looked mint, like nothing was wrong with it. But once we dove into it, we seen evidence of flood, and he was happy to pay that pre-purchase inspection, and he took that Jeep right back to where he was going to buy it, and that saved him in that investment because flooded cars, they may not show problems now, but later down the road, once that water or whatever works into that electrical system, then that's when the problems pop out. The advice I would give to my son or daughter about a used car is don't chase labels. I know a lot of people like the premium cars, but when those premium cars break down, they can barely afford the payment or the insurance for it. So when the car breaks down, it's I can afford this monthly payment, but they don't look down the road. Can I afford if this car breaks down? Some of our premium brand, European vehicles or anything like that. A lot of parts are dealership only, and you're going to pay out the wazoo for those parts, and let alone the mechanic to put them on. So that's the big thing. Don't let your eyes go past what your wallet can afford. So I would tell my kid, don't think with my wallet, think with your wallet. So
Yeah, on that point, premium cars, you gotta love that car. You gotta love spending money, be able
Right.
to, and love spending money on it. If you don't like spending money on your car, don't buy a luxury vehicle.
Right. What are the most common mistakes you have seen people make with their cars?
Not checking the oil.
Mhm.
I mean, that's the most generic answer. Just not, valuing their car
Mhm.
very much.
Mhm.
Just kind of taking it for granted. Just drive it till it stops, or
Right.
listen to your car. And then on the opposite end of that is people who do everything that's recommended when they go places,
Mhm.
and they just spend all this money that doesn't need to be spent. And then when they have a problem, that money's been spent on
Right.
areas where it didn't need to be spent. So it's, you want to find the happy medium, between, checking your oil, checking your fluid, staying on top of your mileage, and then like going overboard. And
Gotcha.
so-
One of the big things I've seen, and I think I've seen it more at the dealership level, is people buying brand new cars and getting, in a sense, railroaded because they're buying an extended warranty on a brand new car that they already have warranty on, for the next 3 years or so. So they're double warrantying it. So basically, that's just money down the drain because you won't even need that extended warranty until your base manufacturer's warranty goes out. In a funny story, when my grandma was still here, she came up to the dealer and she was buying a car, and I just kind of teed her up. Okay, once you buy the car, tell them you don't want anything. You don't want to add anything extra to the car. So when she went into finance, she was pretty rude and abrupt, and I don't want anything. My grandson said, don't add anything to it. And they were like, okay, yes, ma'am. So that made that finance visit into that finance room very short because they knew they couldn't upsell her on anything because, just being informed on, do I really need this warranty and my car is brand new? So, they kind of use fear to incite fear to think, hey, you're going to be double covered in case something goes wrong, which brand new car is already covered. So, and like you said, a big thing is checking the oil, and another big thing is don't ignore the lights on the dash. Because the car is driving fine, don't ignore those lights flashing at you because a repair that could have been 300-400 and you've ignored it until the point where your car is running bad. Now that $300 repair is dipping into the thousands because you ignore it. And I see that a lot on first time drivers' cars, and their parents are reaching out to us to check it out. And then once we talk to the kid, oh yeah, it's been doing that for months, and they didn't tell their parents, and it ends up costing them more money. What's another?
And they add up too.
Right.
That $300, it may not have got to a $600.
Right.
But if you don't do that $300 repair, then here comes another $300 repair,
mhm.
and then eventually it gets to the point where like, do I really want to fix this car? I'm just
Right.
going to trade it in and get on the more expensive payments. So
Right. Which used to be an option. Now it's like people are very reluctant to say, "Oh, I'm just selling. Give me a new one," because you're not. $5,000 isn't the same $5,000 as it used to be. Even 5 years ago. So, people reach out a lot. Hey, do you have a used car? Which $5,000 used to be able to buy you a nice decent car. that may need, some tires or something like that. But now it's pretty much you're getting a bucket for $5,000, and you're gonna have to probably put $5,000 into it just to get it, road ready or freeway ready, or we stay in the metroplex, so you do a lot of driving, and last thing you want to do is break down on 35 in traffic time, and because people aren't nice. It's if you cause them an extra 2 minutes to get to their destination, they want you to get out of the way. So yeah, that's a big thing. Just being in tune with your car. I mean, you can Google, taking care of your car or things to look for, or just your car takes care of you and gets you from point A to point B. So do your oil change. That's the cheapest, most thing you can do for your car is to keep up on the oil change, and a lot of people don't. So for the person who knows nothing about cars and maintenance, what steps should they take in becoming more informed on, or more in tune on what to do to their vehicle?
The manufacturer puts out the maintenance schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's in the owner's manual.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably go on, their website. Don't go by Quick Lube's recommendations
Right.
of what you should do, because every time you go in there, you're going to spend $1,000.
Right.
If you look at the, breakdown at 30,000, at 60,000, at 90,000, the things you're supposed to do, it's really not that much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, familiar yourself with that schedule. That way you don't get, taken advantage of and flush your coolant 3 times, in a year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and do that, and, maybe watch some YouTube videos. There's so much information, not all of it's good,
Mm-hmm.
but, find somebody who, there's probably somebody who owns your car on YouTube that really takes care of it, and they got, videos of it and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of, because a lot of the cars fail the same way.
Mm-hmm.
If your Toyota Tundra has this problem, chances are somebody else had that same problem.
Mm-hmm.
Not always true, but it'll definitely give you more information.
Mm-hmm.
So when you go in to get it fixed, you'll have an idea what you're looking at, so you're not just totally blind.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Another thing that comes up a lot is people they trust these parts
Mm-hmm.
from online so much. Like, I had a customer, they had one fuel injector. Well, it's not a customer, they're like 2 hours away, but
Mm-hmm.
they had a fuel injector on their truck. And okay, fuel injector, you can get a factory one for probably under $200,
Mm-hmm.
depending on what kind of truck it is.
Right.
But they go and they buy all 8 online for
Mm-hmm.
$200.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, in my head, I'm screaming in my head, like, the parts that are in that vehicle are more expensive than the parts you're putting in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, you're taking a good part, instead of just replacing the one fuel injector, they replace all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, all of a sudden now you got 3 misfires.
Right.
Right. I see people buy pack of coil packs. You can buy all 6 coil packs for the price of 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 of them are bad.
Right.
And then they're
Right.
right back in the shop. Wow, I replaced the coil packs, it's still missing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, some of these don't work,
Right.
So realize part quality does matter.
Mm-hmm.
The dealership stuff is, if you want to fix it right the first time, that's what I'd recommend.
Mm-hmm.
You can get away with, aftermarket stuff, especially depending on what it is. But yeah, I mean, manufacturer parts are.
And a lot of people see it as, because just trial and error. I've been in the field, probably a few decades now. It's certain parts that we trust. So dispel the myth of, oh, they're just trying to sell you this part, and I see it online for a third of the price. It's not that we're trying to sell you on, oversell you on a part. It's we use parts that we trust. So
we don't want to do it again.
right. It's not that it's not that. How am I trying to say this? It's not that we're trying to upsell you on this part. It's just trial and error. We've tried this. We've had a customer that, oh, I have my own part and I got it off wherever and put it in, and just problem after problem. So to avoid that, it's certain repairs that I won't put that part on regardless. If I have to lose the job because I know what the result is going to be time and time again, you're getting this eBay part, and we're going to put it on, and you're going to drive, and next week you're going to be calling me back saying, hey, it's doing the same thing. And I think I got this from you, that you stopped using a lot of the aftermarket cats because you got, the catalytic converters, because you just kept getting burnt by them. And yes, the price of their repair is going to be, $3,000 for the part instead of, $400, because time and time again, these aftermarket converters aren't being made up to the standards of the manufacturer. So, and they're making these systems so sensitive that just a little bit off is gonna pop the light on. So just trial and error. We're not trying to upsell you on a more expensive part. We just want to use the right part that's going to keep you on the road and not keep your car in our shop for the second and third time, and just to keep you on the road. So dispel the myth that they're just trying to upsell you, or they're trying to take advantage of women, or whatever the case may be. The price is the price, whether you're a male or female, and we're gonna try to sell you the part that'll fix your car and keep you on the road. So
yeah, the catalytic converters, there's people out there that'll do it, and so to me it's not worth it.
Right. Right.
You bring me the catalytic converter, I'm gonna tell you straight up. In good conscience, I'm gonna tell you that's probably not gonna work for you. Just from experience. And, if they don't want to pay for the factory part, then they got to take it somewhere else.
And it didn't used to be like that as far as a catalytic converter. Maybe 10 years ago, you used to be able to get a decent one, but now it's like, even on my wife's car, we put one in, it has warranty, but who wants to keep doing that over and over and over? And so, we don't get paid extra, because we warranty our repairs, but we let customers know that, hey, if you want this part, we're going to put it on, but there's no warranty. And it's like, you want to take that risk on putting this part on with no warranty, just to save a few bucks. So if it's a car you're going to keep, go with the factory part. It's some stuff you can get away with aftermarket, but for the majority of electrical parts sometimes, and emissions parts, even oxygen sensors. We've been burnt by aftermarket oxygen sensors on certain cars. Just if you trust that mechanic, then trust him fully, and knowing that he's giving you the best option to keep your vehicle fixed and on the road. So, and back to for advice for a person that knows nothing about cars is, do your research like Josh said, and not that you're going to do your own repairs. It's nice to have some kind of idea of what you may be looking at when you go into that dealership or that independent shop, so that you're not in the blind on what they're talking about. Some words they use, because sometimes it's hard. We're constantly, looking at data and, what parts are called, and, how system works, that sometimes we can't, in a sense, I guess, dumb it down to where it doesn't sound so technical. And that's one thing we had to learn at the dealership is, not all technicians are technicians that you want talking to your customers, but we, we were at a smaller dealership, so we kind of had to play every role. So, if the advisor couldn't explain in depth or what the customer could understand, then it's the technician explaining it to the customer. So just kind of bringing it down to a level to where it's not too technical, but they can kind of get the idea of what you're saying. Just starting our shops, coming from a dealership to where everything is broken up. You have the advisor on the intake of the customer, and then the technician gets the car, and then the technician looks at it, makes a quote, and then parts does their thing, and then going back to starting our own shop, and now we're responsible for everything. So we just and I have a deep found respect for what service advisors do. Just having to explain what's wrong with your car, what needs to be done, and what it costs, and sometimes that can be emotional because times are getting tough, and money's not going as far as it normally would. So it's very it's an emotional process. It can be an emotional process because nobody just has a few $1,000s sitting around waiting for a car breakdown, especially since inflation and everything's going up. So, you know, into that, you know, one thing here at Mobility Auto we don't do is we don't badmouth another shop, because if you've been in the industry, you know, as long as we've been, you have connections at different dealers, different shops, and one thing we won't do is badmouth the shop, because if a customer's coming and they're badmouthing the shop, they're probably gonna do the same thing to you if they don't like something you did. So we try to keep it, you know, you can let us know what the other shop did, but we're not going to team up and you know, come in locks with you and badmouth another shop, because we know each other. So
That's a major red flag. That I've learned that in the business, because sometimes, you know, the people, they don't know how to. They've had bad experiences, or they were just you know, they come at you, you know, with a bad attitude, and you know, and that's on a good day. That's when you do everything right. It's always going to be, you know, and so that's, yeah, as a customer, like, you know, you always, like, you gotta would say, you know, find a good mechanic, a mechanic you trust. Well, sometimes mechanics got to find customers they like and they trust. It goes both ways. You know, I'm not just, you know, here on this earth to do whatever you tell me to do. And that's one thing that worked for myself. I really appreciate that fact that, you know, you don't have to take every car. The dealership, you know, basically you got to take every car that comes down the line.
Oh yeah.
And but yeah, that's another thing, you know, bad mouthing mechanics, you know, problems happen. No one's perfect. You know, parts can go bad. You know, I had a job this week. The control arm, the ball joint where it's pressed into the control arm was loose. So it was, the ball joint was moving. And I was like, you know, it's a part issue, you know, you know, and so, you know, I'm not going to badmouth them, but it needs to be redone. And
yeah, and that comes to parts quality. You know, you have this control arm that costs $400, but you trust it and you know it's going to last because you might use it on your own car, versus, hey, I seen this one on eBay for a set of them for, you know, $200. The quality, it looks the same, but the quality is not there, and unless you're selling that car right off the back, it's going to bite you in the end. So, and then the warranty, yeah, you got this part online, but the only way they'll send you another one is you have to take it off and ship it back. So that's more time that your car is down, and then you're going to put the same crappy part back on there and expect it to last, you know, as long as what we would have recommended, you know, you put on there. So parts matter. Parts quality
we
matters.
haven't said that before.
Auto parts stores don't diagnose your car. They scan the code and they can give you a list of parts that they want, that they'll sell you, but it is not a diagnosis. And I tell a lot of customers, they'll call in and they do not want to pay for a diagnosis. They will throw parts on the car before they pay for a diagnosis. And one thing is, oh, you know, I already got a diagnosis. Okay, then where'd you take it, ma'am? Oh, well, you know, AutoZone did it. Which, okay, and I tell them, can you send a picture of the diagnosis you got? In big letters at the bottom, it says this is not a diagnosis. So it's, a lot of people trust that code scan, which can be misleading because we know cars have multiple computers, and a failure over here can throw a code for something over here, but it'll mislead you because everything is wired in with the multiplex system or the CAN system, so it can send you down a rabbit hole. So if I can say anything is, don't try to save a few $100 trusting what a code scan is telling you. Yeah, that's one big thing, and I see it time in and time
All
again.
the time.
I've already had it diagnosed. Okay, that's fine and great. You know, where'd you take it? Do you have? Oh, AutoZone did. I can send you the paper, and then it's kind of like a back and forth. Okay, do you want to put on the parts that the code is coming up for? Well, no. Yeah, but you're gonna check it first, right? You know, kind of trying to weasel around the diagnosis, but that's how we stay in business. We don't want to throw a part in your car and then it's kind of like a showdown. Ma'am, well, that didn't fix it. So do you want to get a diagnosis now, or what do you want to do? So it's kind of like a showdown. You know, you threw this part on for them because they were dead set on not getting a diagnosis from you, and you throw the part on, and now it's a showdown. Like, okay, where do we go now? Well, we go back to where we wanted to start is a diagnosis. So sometimes the diagnosis is quick, and sometimes we spend hour on top of hour chasing wires to see what's really going on with your car. So, and another thing is I did my research. I did my research, which is, we all know it's Google or YouTube, and I already know what it is. So, don't try to sell me nothing else. And we've done a lot of those repairs that, it was the same car and with the same problem, and then we put that part on the customer wanted on, and it didn't fix it. Just because it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it wasn't a duck. So it's the diagnosis. And I want to push diagnosis. Yeah, it's a small investment to really see what's going on with it, and then then I'm on the hook. If I tell you something was going to fix it and you pay for a diagnosis, then I'm on the hook. The pressure's on me because this is what I told you. But if you went somewhere else, got a diagnosis, i.e. a parts store, and we put it on, now we're at a showdown. Now you spent money you shouldn't have, and now we're back to square one where now, are we going to do the diagnosis?
Yeah.
So
we're off the hook. If you diagnosed it and you want us to do something.
And time again, like when I was at the dealership, we would diagnose a car, and then the customer like, no, I'll do my own. So they do the repair, and then they bring it back. Hey, it's still doing this. It's like, you're gonna pay for another diagnosis. It's not because the big thing is we want to sell you on a diagnosis that we can't predict. Electrical systems are crazy, so it could be some weird deal where it affected multiple parts. But if you're playing the game of you diagnose it, then I'll take it somewhere to get it fixed and then bring it back and let you know, hey, well, it's still doing a little bit, something else. So it's important not to, in a sense, I guess, shop hop, because you could have had one initial problem. You took it to one shop, they did something, took it to another shop, they did something, and now you're bringing it to us, and now we have to look everywhere because, people have spread pin connectors out or they've caused problems that weren't there. So it makes it hard on the mechanic you use, I guess, regularly, because now it's exchanged hands 3 times, and now it's basically more work on us to undo what the last technician did to see what's really going on with your vehicle.
Yeah, I had a car 2 weeks ago, a Jeep Misfire. Customer went to AutoZone, got spark plugs for it, replaced the spark plugs, still misfiring on one of the cylinders. And he brings it in, and I pull it. I was like, well, check, make sure the ignition coil's okay, the spark plug's okay. I checked the engine. Well, you got a cylinder dead. You got a bad engine. That's crazy. Why? So I spend couple hours trying to figure out why this one cylinder bad. The head gasket's not blown. I call him. I said, hey, you got a dead cylinder on your engine. He's like, well, on one of those spark plugs, I think it was the third one I pulled out, it was all crushed. It was all smashed up. And I said, if I would have pulled that spark plug out and seen it before you replaced it, I would have known right then.
Right.
We could have been, hours ahead of the game, but because you went in there and fixed it, you took some of the evidence,
right.
And I'm at the scene of the crime trying to figure it out, and so yeah, that was just interesting, man. That was wild.
And it's like one thing is be upfront with the information. You kind of playing the cat and mouse game or whatever on the information. Let us know everything up front versus, hey, we've been looking at your car and we see this. Oh yeah, we had a problem with that, and I tried to do this. So the big thing is being upfront. It's kind of like excuse me. It's kind of like going to the doctor. You're upfront with everything with the, to that doctor, so he can see what's going on with you. And just like diagnosis on your body, or exam is what they call it. Sometimes it's doctor, okay, let's try this. That didn't work, and then you come back, pay for another visit. Okay, that didn't work. It's the same thing with your car, but I think mechanics are more held to the fire with automotive repair because, hey, well, I just paid for a diagnosis for this, and that didn't fix it. So in these cars, and especially newer cars, they're adding more and more computers, more and more wires. Sometimes it's just not clean and cut. one part failure can affect another part. Like we had I think it was around a 2017 Silverado, and he jumped it backwards. So it could have, how the system was ran, it could have knocked out up to like 5 computers, which this truck had more than that. And we fixed one short, and then you got some function back to the truck, and then we fixed another one, got more functions back to the truck. So in that truck, it ended up zapping 3 computers, and he lucked out it stopped there. But sometimes it's just not just clean and cut one part is going to fix your car. Sometimes you got to fix that part to go in deeper to see what else could be failing. So in all, I compare it to the doctor a lot, because sometimes doctors don't, they don't get the backlash that we do. Hey, you put this part on, and now this other part, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like that before you did this. So sometimes cars are just like that, especially when you get into the Euro cars or Swedish, Volvos or stuff like that. It's just not a clean cut repair like a like a Chevy or some of the most common cars, or the Toyota. But sometimes it's just not clean and cut. You have to go further in depth just to see what's going on with it. So, what's one thing as a shop owner that that you've learned from when you first started to now? Is there anything that you could tell yourself when you were first starting your business that, hey, if I could start all over, I'd do this, in a sense?
That's tough. One thing, as you were talking earlier about the dealership, you got parts department, you got the service riders and the mechanics. We all work together to do the job, and I always felt like I didn't need all those guys, because I was working at home on the weekends. I was getting the parts, I was talking to the customer, I was doing the repair. Why am I sharing my money with everybody? So I was, now I had my shop, I just realized how long it takes to do everything. You can only get so much done, in a day, because there's so many steps in the process. You got to diagnose it, talk to the customer, get the parts, take the delivery, and so that's one thing. I was like, it was more work than I thought. It's not just sitting back and wrenching on cars all day, and
right.
It's like when you're, a third of my time, maybe, I don't know, but like, actual in the shop getting dirty, and that was the biggest surprise of it. That's
and you don't realize how much time it eats up. When we're at the dealer, we didn't have to worry about all that. We, once we put a quote together, whatever, send it off, then it's up to them to add the parts and send it back to the advisor, and the advisor sells it.
Yeah.
And
meanwhile, you're working on your next one.
Right,
you're getting your next one lined up, so you kind of got it. And so,
and especially pulling, answering the phone and trying to pull in new customers. It's I got this job on the lift that I'm trying to knock out, but I have these potential customers on the phone, and basically it's an interview. They're trying to see if they're going to choose you to bring their car in, and you don't want to feel like you're rushing them to get them off the phone, but in the back of your head, you've already told these other 2 customers that hey, yeah, you're going to have your car by the end of the day, but then you get a few calls, and changes your whole thing, and you want to be catering to them on the phone so you don't sound like a jerk, because you're trying to get them off the phone. So definitely a newfound respect for every position within the service department. It's a reason to split up like that, because the advisors can spend that time with you on the phone or in person at the desk, just to give you the attention you need to make you feel comfortable with the repair you're getting done. So definitely, in which I kind of still do both, but getting my business to the point where I can have somebody full time that can answer the phone and sit and cater to the customers that we already have, and the new customers that call in, because how you answer and how you speak to somebody, that first encounter on the phone, it determines if that customer is even going to give you a try. We live in the Metroplex, and you probably can throw a rock and hit a, just like you can throw a rock and hit a church, you can throw a rock and hit an auto repair shop. But, I tell a lot of customers that, I started mobile. My first 6 years was mobile. So trying to get somebody to trust you that you're going to come to the house, do the repair, and that you're going to back that repair if something goes wrong was kind of difficult, because customers want to be able to have access to you. So that's, why the brick and mortar was important. Customers want to know that you're not going to go anywhere, and that if they have a problem with this repair that you just did, that they can find you and that you're going to take care of them in case something goes wrong within that warranty period. Another question that's off the cuff.
I've got a point on what you're saying. You
ahead.
touched on something, having your lift tied up with one job and then another one comes up.
Right.
I'm a one-man shop, so I try to have my basic customers that come first. If you're an existing customer, if you've been with me for 5-10 years, back when I was doing it in my driveway,
Right.
like, I'm not going to tell you no. And so you got to balance between taking new customers and, that was one thing, I guess, if I learned anything since I've been in business is stick to what you want to do, what you can do. Because I look back some of my old tickets and stuff, like I was all over the place, working on everything.
Right.
And there's so many times, you get tied up on a non-profitable job because you committed to it.
Right.
That you're
Right.
having to turn down AC jobs. You're having to turn down profitable work. So have, tell myself, have faith in what you can do. There's going to be, you got enough clientele built up. Like, you can just do what you want to do. You can do right. You can do good and make a living. You don't have to go jump down every Volkswagen,
Right.
rabbit hole. You have to, I'm not trying to win a trophy. I'm trying to provide.
And speaking to that, it's excuse me, and that's one of the benefits of having your own shop. Let alone, you can take care of people. And one thing is, we've had a few people call, I need this, and this done, and the power to say, we're going to pass on that. Like you said, a doctor can pick their patients that they're going to take in, or we're not taking patients. And the same thing with independent shop. It's we have the right to say yes, we'll take the job, or no, we won't take the job. And we've had a few callers that, you probably couldn't have done it anyways. And I know it's kind of like a baiting into, some people they're confrontational and they want to go back and forth. It's like, no, we can do that, but we choose not to, in a sense that we see it's a job that is probably better suited for the dealer, because we are a smaller shop and we can't invest that much time into your car sitting here because there's too much going on with it. And it's probably something that you will need the technology of the dealership with their tech line support to see what's going on with this car, because it's not a common problem. Not to say we don't take jobs, and like you said, for customers that you've had 5 to 10 years, you might take one of those jobs just as, I'll see what I can do, drop it off and I'll see if it's something I can zero in on. But a new customer in the gate with 5 to 10 problems on their car, expecting to pay 1 hour diagnosis, is certain cars that I'm going to opt out, especially, it's just relationship, let us build that relationship before you come with a 10-point demand list, of things you need done in your car. So what's one thing that your company stands on as far as when people think of Captain Auto, you want them to think of what?
Someone who's, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to do right by, the customer. I'm going to do right by myself. I don't get in anything I don't think I can get out of, and, just stand behind it. If you say it, if you put it in writing, if you say it, then you got it. You're there for it. So yeah, I'm just try to, be honest. Like, I treat the car like it's my own car, and that's it. I'm trying to do good, good for everybody.
And that's, I would agree with that also, and it's I'm not gonna do a repair on a car that it doesn't need in a sense because we have morals and values and I have to look myself in the mirror because especially these times where money is tight and people are trying to stretch a dollar. Um, I can't look myself in the mirror knowing, hey, I just took this family for this much money. It's we just want to fix the car, and sometimes that comes with a big invoice, but it's not me trying to get over and me trying to get rich. It's this is how much the job calls for. This is how much the parts are. Kind of taking, I guess, in a sense, taking the emotions out of it. The money is the money. And if the money is the only problem, then in a sense, I can't help you with that. But I can fix the car. I can stand behind my work. And, your money is, the money you spend is, in a sense, is protected because I'm backing my work. There's always going to be a mechanic that, my neighbor or whatever, he'll do it cheaper. But is he going to back that repair? If that repair fails within a week, is he going to come out and do that repair again for free? So is he backing his work? Yeah, you saved, $500, but now do you have the surety that if that thing fails again, that they're going to back what they did, or is it I don't have time, or I hear it a lot. Oh yeah, I have a buddy that would do it, but his shop is so backed up that he just can't get to it, and it's like, okay, I understand, but either you wait for him or this is our price to do that repair. So that's the biggest thing, and you're not just being able to stand on what you do, your values and morals, and knowing that if something I did caused an issue, that just being transparent and truthful that, hey, this wasn't like this. I was doing this repair. I should have called you before that to let you know that there's a potential it could break, but I didn't. Don't worry about it. It's taken care of. We've done it. We've done the repair you paid for. And we fixed the part that that we damaged, and your car is ready to pick up. And a lot of people aren't like that, but I can face myself in the mirror knowing that I did everything to put your car better, better than it was when it came. So that's the goal, is make the car better than it was when it came, and something that you can, sometimes you can feel the difference, but knowing that on that road, Captain Otto did this repair, and if anything goes wrong, he's always been there. He'll take care of me. So, yeah, anything you want?
Better than it was. I
Right.
remember somebody said that a lot.
Right.
That no, I mean, I think that's it. Try to, like you said, like the Hippocratic oath, I guess the doctors have. Do no harm.
Right.
You try to do that, even if you're not happy with the situation. Don't it's somebody's car.
Mm-hmm.
Do what's right. Don't be malicious or something.
Mm-hmm.
Do something like to over tighten something, or just
Right.
just I see videos of people, someone else can do it cheaper, and then
Mm-hmm.
like no, and yeah, don't oversell. There's enough problems with these cars that we don't have to
Mm-hmm.
make up problems.
Right. Yeah, and I'm not gonna go into make some models that that make us money, but it's the same problems. And if you're looking at buying a car, you can call Captain Auto or Mobility Auto and just kind of ask us, hey, what do you think about this car I'm going to buy? And we've been in the industry long enough that we can give you a flat out. It may look good, but don't do it. The price may look good, but don't do it. Basically, hey, ask your mechanic, hey, what do you drive? Because if it's a car you're buying and they wouldn't touch it with a 12-inch pole, you probably shouldn't either. So that's the big thing.
Oh, yeah.
Ask a mechanic what.
Because most likely they'll tell you. They'll
Oh,
easily
yeah.
tell you what to avoid.
Because if they're your mechanic, they're going to have to deal with the car you just bought, and
Don't bring that around here. You buy that.
Right. And back to that pre-purchase inspection. Yeah, it looks good, sounds good. You bought an extended warranty, and the extended warranty, that's a whole nother discussion, but you've bought an extended warranty, and I get a lot of calls with post inspection. I already bought the car. I want you to look it over.
Yeah.
Please do the pre-purchase inspection. And if they're not letting you take your car, excuse me, take the car or drive a car for 30 minutes, just leave it where it is, because they're obviously hiding something. They don't want you to get the car warmed up, because that's when the problems come. And, you know, they're just trying to get you to jump in and buy quick. So avoid those transactions. So I think that's it. Thank you for joining us, Captain Otto. And how can they get a hold of you, where you're located, and your phone number that they can reach out to you?
My number is 817-503-3549. I'm 820 in Rosedale area, East Side, Hanley. And
what's the name of the business park you're within?
I don't know. It doesn't. I don't think it has a name.
Just
if it does, no one ever told me.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you can call or text, and we can see if we can help you.
All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate you, the invite.
Mm-hmm.